Welcome to this Advent devotional series. This is day 2 of our series. I am Reverend Lester Spees, and I have the privilege of serving as pastor at Memorial Lutheran Church in Glendale, Wisconsin. During this Advent season, I will be reflecting on some tough questions that come from Scripture and on some sacred spaces that have helped me to respond to those tough questions. Thank you for joining me in this journey. This devotion is from Monday, November 28, 2022. And the tough question for today comes from Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" The first time that I remember stepping into my home church, St. Peter Lutheran Church in Hallettsville, Texas, I was about 3.5 years old. At my home church, in the fall of the year after you turned 3, you were allowed to attend Sunday school for the first time. Sunday school came after worship at about 10:15 a.m. The worship service started at 9. So on that rally Sunday in September of 1967, I sat in the pew on the third row from the front on the right-hand side of the church to the left of my grandma Spees, who sat in the place closest to the side aisle. That became my worship spot for the next 15 years. I never missed a Sunday of worship or Sunday school from that first Sunday in 1967 until I graduated from high school and worked away from home for the first time in my life during the summer of 1982. By then, I was 18. And when I say I never missed a Sunday of worship or Sunday school at St. Peter Lutheran over an almost 15-year time span, I mean, I never missed a Sunday, not due to illness, not due to vacation. My parents did not even know the meaning of that word, not due to oversleeping, not due to anything. I never missed a Sunday. Neither did Grandma Spees. Now, I don't recall the exact date. Please forgive me since I was only 3.5 at the time. But I have a vivid memories of a Sunday that fall after I had been in worship and Sunday school for at least a couple of weeks, when I leaned over to my grandma Spees while we were waiting for the Holy Communion part of the service to finish and said to her quietly, "When I grow up, I'm going to be like that man." I was referring to the pastor. When we later told people about this unsolicited pronouncement on my part, people thought I was kidding or too young to understand what I was saying. They were wrong. I knew from that moment that God was calling me to service in the church in this way. Now, I may not have understood all that would be required of me. I may not have always felt prepared or ready for what service in the church in an ordained ministry role would mean for me as the years progressed. But I knew this is what I was called to do, and that I was going to do whatever was necessary to fulfill that call. My home church was the first place where I started to understand the meaning and importance of sacred space. Sacred space was where I felt welcomed, where I felt comfortable, where I felt safe, where I felt God's presence, and where I could hear the voice of God offering words of forgiveness, words of healing, words of comfort, and words of commission, calling and empowering me for service. And my home church was the first place where I started to understand the meaning and importance of having people in that space who helped to listen, to support, and even to question the call to service. To this day, I give thanks to God for that space and for the people in that space. Isaiah heard this divine question: whom shall I send, and who will go for us? When Isaiah heard this question, he responded, "Here am I, send me." I have always felt a kinship with Isaiah. Maybe we were born at different times, lived in different spaces, and experienced different situations. But I too heard the call from God to serve. And I too replied to that call. Here am I, send me. Isaiah may have had his moments, as we learn later in the prophetic word, where he questioned the wisdom of that response. To be honest, I have had a few such moments myself over the years. However, one of the last words of prophecy that the Lord revealed to Isaiah was this: as a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you. You shall be comforted in Jerusalem. From Isaiah 66:13. Ultimately, Isaiah was comforted by God throughout his call, and Isaiah was called to share a word of comfort to others. I too have been comforted by God throughout my call, and I hope that I have been faithful in the call to share that word of comfort to others. St. Peter Lutheran Church was an amazing and sacred space, and not just when I was 3.5 years old. I felt that divine presence in that space for years to come. It was there in that sanctuary that I received my first communion. It was there that I was confirmed in the faith. It was there that I was ordained into the ministry of word and sacrament 23 years after that first pronouncement to my Grandma Spies. And by the way, she was there for each and every one of those celebrations, sitting in the pew on the third row from the front, on the right-hand side of the church, in the place closest to the side aisle.